Hello viewers, in this tutorial we are going to learn about Oracle RDS database in AWS Cloud. We will first create an Oracle RDS database and then migrate an on-premise Oracle database to RDS database. So viewers, this is the era of cloud computing. Many of the organizations are migrating their databases to the cloud to avoid the cost of hardware infrastructure and maintenance overheads for the on-premise databases. Two of the major players in hosting Oracle databases in the cloud are Oracle Cloud and the AWS or Amazon Web Services with their different offerings like EC2, RDS, etc. in a much competitive price. So it is high time for Oracle DBAs also to get familiar with the technologies and concepts. This topic is for AWS RDS for Oracle, and so I will not divert our focus to cloud services other than AWS. In the first tutorial, we will learn how to create an Oracle RDS database in AWS, and in the second, we will learn how to migrate an on-premise Oracle database to an Oracle RDS database. I am dividing this topic into multiple tutorials. I will keep adding new tutorials in this context on how to backup, recover an RDS instance or monitor with cloud monitoring application like CloudWatch or traditional application like OEM, etc. and add any new topics as we go. Now first of all, what is RDS? RDS stands for Relational Database Services, an offering from AWS or Amazon Web Services for a mostly automated database. I am using the term mostly because it is not fully automated, but many of the DBA activities are automated in this database service, such as backup, disaster recovery, high availability, storage management, patching, monitoring, etc. Many of the commands or utilities an Oracle DBA uses in a day-to-day basis are not available in an Oracle RDS database, and instead these are performed through some packages or APIs in the RDS database. For example, you won't be able to connect to an Oracle RDS instance as a sysDBA or system user to perform various administrative activities. Rather, you have to use a master user designated to perform such administrative activities, which is called an RDS admin user. For example, you cannot use RMAN utility directly to take a backup or restore the database, but you have to use certain packages that interfaces with RMAN or use the AWS snapshot technologies. You will also have certain limitations in monitoring the RDS instance using OEM. You can't just connect to the RDS database host to take a data pump export or do an import, but you have to use certain APIs or packages for export-import. There are another type of RDS instance which is called RDS custom, where you get a little more flexibility in doing this kind of DBA activity. If RDS is not what you need and rather you want a fully accessible Oracle database instance and a database host in the cloud in a traditional way, you have the EC2 option in AWS. However, in this tutorial, we will use AWS RDS for Oracle database. So without wasting more time, let's first create an AWS RDS for Oracle database. Once you log into your AWS account, based on the licensed and free services you have taken, your console will look like this, and all the services will be listed in this box. If you don't see the required service listed here, you can always go to this search box and search with the name. For example, if we want to see the RDS service, then you can search the RDS keyword there and it will take you to the appropriate screen, and from there you'll find everything you need. For example, under Amazon RDS, now I want to create a database. So I already have certain databases created, but I want to create a new database, and I will click on this Create Database button, and it will ask you certain questions like what kind of method you are going to use to create the database, which is the standard create or easy create. Let's take the standard create. It's selected by default. Then the database engine option, what type of database you are going to create, like Amazon Aurora, MySQL, MariaDB, SQL Server, Oracle, PostgreSQL. So in our case, it's going to be Oracle. Next, you need to select the database management type. It's Amazon RDS or Amazon RDS Custom. In our case, we are going to select Amazon RDS. And you have the option to create a multi-tenant database by selecting this Use Multi-Tenant Architecture option. Then what edition you are going to use, the Oracle Enterprise Edition or Oracle Standard Edition 2. So each of these editions have their features listed below that. In our case, we are going to use the Oracle Enterprise Edition. And the license is going to be bring your own license. So RDS or Amazon is not responsible for giving you the license, but you have the responsibility to use or buy or bring the appropriate license for using the Oracle database. Then what version of Oracle database is going to be installed? It's going to be 19c database. And also release update 2022-01 is applied here. Then what type of template? So it's going to be a production database or it's a dev test database. So based on your requirement, you can select the option. In my case, I'm selecting the dev test option. Then certain settings are there. For example, the DB instance identifier, something like the SID. So in our case, let's put like say RDS test or test RDS. Then master username, by default it is taking admin. I'm okay with that. If you want, you can change it. And the password, you may opt for auto-generating the password by AWS, or you can populate on your own. Say in our case, I'm going to put something like admin 12345, admin 12345. Then the instance configuration. So based on what type of configuration you are selecting, it is going to allocate the server resources. So if it is standard class, then it will include certain classes, which is the M classes here. Then also there are R and X classes and T classes. So each of these classes are having certain features and options available to you. So if you want to see details about each of these classes, you can click on this info button to get more information about them. In our case, we are using the standard classes, and this is by default selected, that is the 4 vCPUs option with 16 GB of RAM and a network speed of 4750 megabits per second. If you want, you can select other available options here like 2 vCPUs, 8 vCPUs, 16 vCPUs based on your requirement. If you think that it's going to be a heavy duty database and going to take a lot of load from the application, then probably you have to select a higher vCPU option, or based on your performance testing, you can decide on what number of vCPUs is the best for your instance. So in our case, we are using the DB M5 extra large option with 4 vCPUs. Then include additional memory configurations and include previous generation classes. These two options. Then additional configurations, we are not going to select anything here. Then the storage, so it's going to be general purpose SSD. So you have certain options there, provisions IOPS SSD and magnetic option. In our case, we are going to select general purpose SSD. So it is baseline performance determined by volume size. Then what will be the allocated storage? In our case, it's by default selecting 20 gigs, which is fine for a test database, and you can increase or decrease it based on your requirement. Then storage auto scaling. This is very important because if 20 gigs is not enough for you, you might want to increase it as you go. For example, after using for a couple of days or months, if your database storage requirement increases, Amazon will automatically scale it up if you enable this option, enable storage auto scaling. And what will be the maximum storage threshold? We are selecting 1000 here. By default, it is getting selected. It means it is 1 terabyte. Then availability and durability. So multi-AZ deployment, it is an option which will give you some kind of high availability. For example, if you select the multi-AZ option, a standby instance will be created automatically. So we are not going to create a standby database for our test database instance, so we are not selecting this. Instead, we are selecting do not create a standby instance option. Next comes the connectivity, where we select the virtual private cloud or VPC. VPC is nothing but, as defined here, VPC that defines the virtual networking environment for this particular database. So you can create a new VPC, or you can use an existing one which is already created for your company. But once you select the VPC and create the database, you cannot change the VPC. Then the subnet group, and in the subnet group also you can select an already created subnet group or use the default one. Then in the next option, public access, if you select the yes option here, then your RDS instance will be publicly available, and which is defined here. Amazon EC2 instance and the devices outside the VPC can connect to your database. Choose one from VPC security group that specify which EC2 instance and devices inside the VPC can connect to your database. And if you select the no option, RDS will not assign a public IP address to the database. Only Amazon EC2 instance and the devices inside the VPC can connect to your database. And we are selecting no here. Then VPC security group. So we will have the option to choose an existing VPC group or create a new VPC group. In our case, our VPC is already created, so I am selecting the choose existing VPC group. So we have the options to select one of the VPC groups that we have. Say I am selecting the default VPC group here. Then the availability zone. Here you can select one of the availability zones. Say my account is under US East, then I have the option to select either US East 1A or US East 1B availability zone. Then comes the additional configuration, where you can define which port will be used to connect to the database. This is the same port that we use to create our TNS entry in a traditional Oracle database. So if you want to use the default port of 1521, you can use it, or you can change it here. Then database authentication mechanism that you are going to use for this RDS instance, whether it's going to be using password authentication or password and Kerberos authentication, that you can select here. So mostly we are using password authentication. Then under additional configurations, you have more options here, like initial database name. If you do not specify database name here, Amazon RDS does not create a database. So please note that this initial database name is different than the instance identifier that we defined before. Say test RDS. Then what will be the DB parameter group? So this parameter group is selected by default, that is Oracle Enterprise Edition 19. You can create a new parameter group and assign it to this database, or you can select the same default parameter group that is here. So I will go over these options of creating the parameter groups in a different tutorial. For now, you can select the default parameter group that we have. Then the options group. So what are the options that is going to be available for this RDS instance? There are different options that you can take and assign to the RDS instance. For example, whether it's going to take the option of getting monitored through OEM, or it is going to take the options of using an S3 bucket associated with this particular instance. All these options you can define through this option group selection here. So by default, I am using this Oracle Enterprise Edition 19 option group, and this option group already has all the options that is needed for my RDS instance, and I'll explain about this option group in a different tutorial. For now, just select the default option group that we have here. Then the character set. In most of our Oracle databases, we use this L32 UTF-8. This is our ideal character set. Then the backup options. Enable automated backups. So you don't have to worry about taking RMAN backups or any other logical backups for your database. AWS will automatically take backups with your selected retention if you enable this automated backup. For example, here I am selecting 7, but you have the option to keep it for up to 35 days. Then the backup window, if you do not have any preference, then Amazon or RDS will select a window based on the activity pattern, and if you choose a window, you can do that here. And also you have the option to copy the tags to the snapshots. So actually AWS will automatically take snapshot backups of your RDS instance, and if you want, you can copy the tags to the snapshot. Then backup replication. So if you want, you can replicate your backup to another AWS region for disaster recovery purpose. For example, if your one region is down and you have the replicated backups available in another region, you can always bring the database up or restore the backups to create the database in another AWS region. Please note that availability zone and regions are different things. Then the encryption, whether you want to enable the encryption for your database, you can do that here. Then under which account this database will be created will be listed here. When you log into a particular AWS account, all your services available or the services that you are going to use will be used under that account context. Then performance insights. There are certain options here. If you turn on the performance insight, then you have a retention period of 7 days, which is free, and it will give you certain information about your RDS database performance. But if you want a bigger window, it is no more going to be free. There are certain options, we don't have to worry about them at this point, but if you want, you can get more information by clicking on that info button here. Then the monitoring. If you click on the enable enhanced monitoring, then AWS Cloud will monitor the system or your RDS instance with its inbuilt capabilities. The granularity will define how frequently the performance metrics will be collected. So it is here 60 seconds. If you want, you can reduce it like every up to 1 second. Then the monitoring role, whether it's the default monitoring role or RDS monitoring role. I'm selecting the default monitoring role here. Then the log export. So we have certain logs available for our Oracle database. Those are the audit logs, alert logs, listener logs, etc. and other trace files, etc. If you want to get a hold on all those logs, then you can select them here. For example, we need the alert logs, audit logs, say listener logs, and say trace log. Then the maintenance part. This is important because if you select this option, enable auto minor version upgrade, then it will automatically upgrade the minor versions of the database. As you see here, enabling auto minor version upgrade will automatically upgrade to new minor versions as they are released. The automatic upgrades occur during the maintenance window for the database. So if you select this option, your minor version upgrades for the RDS instance will be automatically taken care by AWS based on the maintenance window that you have selected. Then deletion protection. If you want to prevent the database being deleted accidentally, then you want to check this option. So if you check this option, then it says protects the database from being deleted accidentally. While this option is enabled, you cannot delete the database, but you can still do that with certain steps when you are 100% sure that you are going to delete the database. And based on all the options you selected, your estimated monthly cost for the database will be, say for the DB instance, you have to spend a little over $249, and for the storage, you have to spend $2.30. And altogether, it's going to be $251.96. And you can click on this Create Database button. So once you click it, it is going to take certain amount of time, and you can see the progress here. Say I have the instance called test RDS, and if you see, the status is creating, and you have to wait for some time. It might take like a couple of minutes or hours based on what size of the RDS database instance you have selected, but you can keep on refreshing it and see the status. So we'll wait for the database instance to be created, and then we'll proceed with the remainings of the tutorial. So it has been a couple of hours now, and we can see that the database that we created, test RDS, its status has changed to available. It means that the database is currently open and it's available for users. If you click on this database, it will take us to the homepage of the database where we get the summary of its configuration, and also you can navigate through these tabs to get more details about different areas associated with this database instance. That is the connectivity and security, monitoring, logs and events, configuration, maintenance and backups, tags, etc. So with this, I am concluding today's tutorial. In the next tutorial, we will learn a few more details about this database, and we will check each of these tabs and the options available under them to understand more about the RDS instance, and also we'll do a few database administrative activities in this RDS instance. So viewers, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Please hit the like button if you liked it and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss an episode in this series for the Oracle DBAs or similar educational videos that I am uploading every week.